Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and this will be the non-spoiler review for Godzilla Minus One, the movie that's showing Hollywood what can be done. And it's not even a Hollywood movie, raking in the money at the box office on a budget of only around $13 million. So, what do we get with this movie? It's basically a human story set after the Second World War that just happens to feature Godzilla. It really is. It shows you what could have been done with most Godzilla movies. Now, I still love the legendary MonsterVerse. I know people didn't particularly enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong. They have mixed opinions on Godzilla X Kong. I still love them. But if you can get movies like this as well, then there's room for both of them. You want the real serious tone? We could have these ones. The fun tones? We can have the legendary ones. So, the movie, we're following a character. I'm not even going to attempt to say their names, because they are very Japanese names. They are not something short like Aikido or something like that. They are crazy, full-on Japanese names that you just embarrass yourself trying to say. So our main character was a kamikaze pilot in the Second World War. The movie opens at the end of the Second World War, like the last day. He's a kamikaze pilot who faked his plane being damaged, so he basically disobeyed his orders and came back to base. He ends up with survivor guilt. He's guilt-ridden because he didn't fulfill his duty as a kamikaze pilot. Then he's riddled with survivor guilt because when he returns to the island, Odo Island, I believe it's called. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but that seems to be how it's spelled. Is a small base for kamikaze pilots filled with mechanics. So the only people on there are mechanics. And while they're there, Godzilla shows up. Not the Godzilla you see in the trailers, however. It's a younger version of Godzilla. He's smaller. And he wreaks a bit of havoc there on this island. And they say to our main lead of the movie, hey, get your gun and shoot it. He's got a 20mm gun on the plane, and he's the only one who knows how to use it because the rest of them are mechanics. But he gets into the plane and he freezes and he doesn't. And they all bar one mechanic die. Godzilla just wipes them all out. So he's guilt-ridden with their deaths on his conscience. He's guilt-ridden that he didn't fulfill his duty. And when he returns home, even his neighbour throws a lot of crap at him and says how dishonourable he is because he didn't fulfill his duty as a kamikaze pilot. He also arrives home to find out that his parents were killed in the war. That he arrives home and like everything is levelled. It's just basically rubble almost. His neighbour, who says like he's dishonourable, her entire family got wiped out in the war, including her children, while his parents died. And then he's down in the market a year later, and this woman is running through the streets with people calling after her saying she's a thief. He kind of stands in her way and she hands him something and takes off, and it's a baby. It's a baby. You're like, what? And what it is, you're basically then following the story of a guy who's guilt-ridden, has PTSD, has nightmares every night of the night Godzilla arrived and killed everyone on the island, where they're all blaming him in the dream, who's now going to be living with a woman that he just met in the street who has a child who's not even her child. The child's parents were killed. She found the child and took the child. So your three main characters in this movie basically are this makeshift family of a survivor of the war, like a pilot from the war who has survivor guilt, a woman who basically wants to settle down, but the two of them are afraid to commit to each other, and a child who looks at them as their parents but aren't at all. And it's kind of what's happening all around that, while Godzilla just happens to be in the movie. So like he is suffering badly from survivor's guilt. he constantly has nightmares. And he needs to make money. And the job he takes is going to be on a ship that goes out to defuse mines. There's minefields left on the coast of Japan that the Japanese Navy put there and the American Navy put there. So they're to go out and disarm these mines, and it pays really good money. But the reason it pays such good money is because the danger of you're taking up mines. And while they're out there taking up the mines, Godzilla arrives again. And they're trying to figure out, like, because they see this American warship that's like, it's half tilted on its side, it's damaged beyond belief, and they're like, what could have done that? And he's the only one who knows. It's like, but that's Godzilla. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he's saying to them, the people on the island of Odo used to speak of this thing and they called it Godzilla. That's the only thing that could have done that to that ship. And of course Godzilla shows up and they find out that they're not actually just out there to collect the mines. The government knows about Godzilla and that he's heading towards Tokyo. And they are out there to stall Godzilla while they're trying to get their ships that they were going to decommission out to try and stop Godzilla. So they're basically out there to stall Godzilla. And they're all kind of like, how are we supposed to stop something that could do that to a ship? And our main guy is like saying, if it's the same Godzilla that I encountered back on that island, he must have grown by now. And he did. You see one of the nuke tests and the nuke accelerated his growth. So they're getting ready, and the captain of the ship, by the way, the ship, he thinks it's this super advanced ship that will be super safe, and it's not. It's just this little wooden boat. And they tell him, oh yeah, it's wooden because the Americans used magnetic mines, and of course if we're wood, we're safe. But the captain is like, yeah, I'm up for this fight, let's do it. And they're like, are you serious? And he's like, hell yeah, like, we're gonna get this. And there's a ship next to them that helps do the mines, and all of a sudden Godzilla just comes out and wipes the ship out. And the captain, it's a great scene, the captain just turns around and is like, yeah, never mind, and just tries to start the boat to run. And you've seen that scene in the trailers, and they released that clip, not the full clip, so I won't tell you where it goes and how it ends, but you see that clip of him chasing the ship and they're firing at it. That's where that scene comes in. We don't really see Godzilla for a good while after that scene, so they're back home. The girl who's now living with him, she's now got herself a job in a place called Jinzaya or something like that. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think it looks like it's spelled Genzaya. It's probably not that. That's probably not how you pronounce it, but that's how it looks to read. So she's gonna work there. He's still out on the ships, and they let the kid stay with the neighbour who lost her family. And while one of the days she's there coming home from work on the train, Godzilla shows up in this city and just destroys it. He grabs the train that she's on. She's the one in the trailer, by the way, that is looking out the train window and says Godzilla. He grabs the train, she survives that, falls into the water, but they all meet up. Like, he meets her to try and get her out of there, because they heard on the radio about this creature is showing up in this area. And we see him use his atomic breath for the first time. They call it the heat ray in this. It's his atomic breath. And his breath is so different in this because when it fires, it's like a nuke goes off. It's just big beam and then just this boom, big bright light, mushroom clouds, you name it. And it just, like, the blast wave takes tons of things out. And here's the one thing that is a bit weird about his breath in this movie, and I don't know how to really feel about the look of it. When he loads up, as you know, watching the legendary movies, that Godzilla, it makes a charging noise as it goes up, and then he just blasts it. This one, the spines on his back raise up, so when it charges, they kind of they like pop out lights up, the next one pops out, lights up, and it goes all the way up his back. And it takes a minute or so for that to fully happen. But it's just a weird aesthetic they went with, that the spines pop up to light up. It's weird. As for Godzilla's look himself, he looks fine, he looks good. His legs look a bit too fat when he's on land. There's just the proportions of his legs compared to the rest of him when he's on land don't look quite right. It's nothing major. It's just a bit, and his walk is a bit the man in the suit kind of, which is probably a callback to that. It's just a little chunky. It's the only way I could really explain it. So then, of course, they have to come up with a plan to how to stop Godzilla. And the plan is going to be to stick these devices to him that will immediately pull him into the depths of the ocean. There's a trench, a deep water trench off the coast, that they want to draw him out there and just pull him down into the trench, thinking the pressure he wouldn't survive. But if he does, the plan B is then to ignite these inflatable raft things that are on ships apparently, to kind of try and help stabilize ships, to then quickly accelerate them back up out of the water. So if he couldn't withstand the pressure going down, he's definitely not going to withstand the pressure going back up and out. And the pilot needs a plane, and he thinks, I can fly and lure him out. And the only plane they can find is this plane that they didn't believe really existed. I can't remember what it's called. I don't even know whether this was actually a real plane or not. I don't ever remember. I've seen images of planes very similar to it, but it's this very small, nimble plane that was, the Japanese in this anyway, basically designed for defensive operations over land. If it came to that, they only had prototypes of it and stuff, but it won't fly, and the only person that our main guy wants to work on it is that one mechanic who survived, which means he has to find him. And there's great interactions between them two and stuff. I'm not going to go any more into the actual movie now because it'll just be spoilers then, and I don't want to spoil it for you. Yes, it's in Japanese, so you are reading the movie, but you don't have to worry because the subtitles actually stay on screen long enough for you to read, which is a good thing. The visuals in it are pretty damn good as well. You know, there's a few wonky bits here and there, but that's fine. You know, it's to be expected on a budget as low as this. It still makes Marvel and DC look bad. Godzilla is pretty cool. There's some great shots of him as well. He's probably in it less than Godzilla's in Godzilla 2024. That might put you off, but again, it's really a story about the people and what they're going through after the war, what they've lost, what their lives are now trying to be. You know, our main guy with the survivor guilt, he thinks he's dreaming of them wanting him to die, and every time he wakes up, he's not even sure whether when he wakes up, whether when he's awake, is that the dream? Did he actually die and this is a dream and stuff? It's great, that kind of what they do with the survivor guilt and all that, you know, kamikaze pilot who didn't do his duty, then froze up and let people die, you know, then finds out his parents are dead, and then with Godzilla around, can't do anything. Very interesting idea with the people, and great people story, especially the end. When you see the end, that really gets you. All in all, great movie. Very, very highly recommend. Not surprised it's doing super well at the box office, and deservedly so. I would highly recommend you go out and watch it and see it on a big screen and whatnot, because even the sound design is great. And one thing, if you do go and see it, there is a moment, basically the end, don't freak out, but the sound just stops. It's like the music is playing, everything, and then the sound just stops, and you're just like, wait, why did it go quiet? And it goes quiet for a couple of minutes, but it's done for effect and it works great. Just to warn you if you think something went wrong when the sound stops. So I would definitely give this movie probably an 8 out of 10. You know, again, I have a couple of issues with the look of, well, more so the way Godzilla walks, bit of the look of his legs and that spine thing. I don't know how I feel about the spines popping out. It's a weird aesthetic. Highly recommend. I'll definitely probably be getting a steelbook of this if it comes available. And with that, I will leave it there for this one. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.